Okay, so welcome to Red Clean, and this is another question that we posted on Telegram group yesterday. Okay, so this is around sixth question, okay, in a row that is part of daily radiology quiz. So let's discuss this question, okay, and so this is a 30-year-old female, okay, that we are witnessing, and this patient who has a history of insidious onset. We have insidious onset dyspnea, okay. This onset is chronic, okay, and progression is gradual. So it's a slowly increasing dyspnea that is there for past 1 year. The patient underwent an HRCT, which is shown below. On examination, there is a presence of multiple papules are there in bilateral malar and nasal region. What is the likely diagnosis? So what we are given? We are given with a young female. Okay, the patient is a young female. Point number one. Point number two, which we are dealing with, is the patient is having history of slowly progressive dyspnea, and the history is around of 1 year. Okay. And another important thing that is given is your skin manifestation. Patient is also having skin manifestation. So the question wants us to link skin manifestation with this pulmonary disease, probably a pulmonary disease. Okay. And in skin manifestation, they are saying that the patient is also having papules, papular disease is there on, you know, patient is having papules on, malar area and nasal area. That's is what that is shown. Okay. So okay, now the options that we have is pulmonary Langerhans cell histiocytosis, one option. Then you have neurofibromatosis. Third option is your lymphangioliomyomatosis, and fourth is your Birt-Hogg-Dube syndrome. Okay, it's Birt-Hogg-Dube syndrome, so it's BHD rather than BHT. Okay, so these are four options. Now look at the HRCT image. Okay, this is the patient who's having multiple papules. So you can see that there are multiple papules in the bilateral malar and nasal areas. Okay, so that is there. Then this is HRCT axial image, and this is your HRCT image of a coronal view. So let's discuss the findings, okay, and then discuss what should be the probable diagnosis. So if you look at the, this particular HRCT, and in this HRCT, what I could, see that there are multiple cysts, okay, in bilateral lung fields. So that is a one prominent thing that I could see. There are multiple cysts involving bilateral lung fields. Okay, and if you see the wall, whenever you see the cyst, I look at the wall of the cyst. So wall is little bit thinner, thin wall is there. Okay, yeah, and very few areas of normal lung parenchyma is visible. The cyst have taken almost all lungs. Okay, they have replaced the lung parenchyma almost completely. Okay, there is no evidence of any traction, something like that. No evidence of any fibrosis, no appearance of any nodules are there. Okay, so these are the simple negative findings that I could see. Okay, so I do not look at that. Now the patient, okay, now look at the coronal image to look at the distribution of these cysts. So if you see closely that the distribution of these cysts, okay, so if you see that upper lobes are predominantly involved more than lower lobes here. In this part, upper lobes are involved more than lower lobes. If you see upper lobes closely, cysts are more in upper lobes in comparison to lower lobes. That is shown because there are some spared areas is there in the lower lobes as well, but these cysts are typically round to oval in shape. If you see, round to oval in shape, okay, and their wall is thin and they are numerous. Their number of cysts are quite large. Numerous cysts are there. Okay, if you see the other parenchyma that is spared, that it typically is little bit hazy. Okay, that is there. So that is what the information that I have, okay, with me. Okay, now I want to look at the options of this particular question. So again, just tabulating my findings. Okay, so I'm dealing with a young female patient who has an insidious onset dyspnea with a gradual progression past 1 year. I saw at the findings on HRCT, and what I could find is that there's a bilateral involvement, bilateral diffuse multicystic lung disease. and I told you all the negative findings. There are no nodules, nothing, nothing evidence, no evidence of traction or something like that. So I have all those, things that I've ruled out that can secondarily cause cyst. So there is no evidence of fibrosis to cause cyst. Okay, and no, what all can give rise to cyst? Fibrosis can give rise to cyst. There was no evidence of fibrosis. Pneumatoceles can also appear like cyst, but pneumatoceles will not be that large as you can see, and they will not be that in number as you can see. And also the pneumatoceles will happen in infectious pneumonia. So definitely patient should have a history of fever and all those in an acute setting, and that is not also there. Okay. Another important point, it could be emphysematous changes, which could look like cyst. So definitely patients, patient is not having any history that is pertaining to COPD. Okay. Also, emphysematous changes characteristically they will have enlarged alveolar spaces, but the wall will not be there in emphysematous changes. So we saw a discernible wall here. Okay, and the wall is thinner, but the wall is there. Okay, so it doesn't look like emphysematous changes, and emphysematous changes either they would be they will not be that large also. One important point, either they will be centrilobular or they will be paraseptal. Okay, so typical appearance would be assuming a particular pattern would be there in emphysematous changes. These typically they are quite larger cysts are there, variable size round to oval cyst, multi involving almost all of the lungs is there, and typically if you see the predominance is there in the upper lobes in this particular case more than lower lobes that we saw. So that is about this. So there is no secondary cystic evidence of any secondary disease that can cause secondarily form the cyst. So I would suspect this patient to develop having a multicystic lung disease that is primarily cystic in nature. And if you see closely, all these four options are primarily cystic in nature. Okay, everywhere you will see cyst is there. Okay, in lamb you have cyst, in BHT syndrome you have cyst, you have NF you have cyst, you have pulmonary LCH having cyst. Okay, so we have to look definitely at other findings that is there in the question to ultimately narrow down our DDs, and these are the only few DDs that you have in diffuse cystic lung disease. So one important finding that you have, okay, let's discuss about pulmonary LCH. If you look pulmonary LCH, it typically happens in your mid age around 30 to 50 years. And the pulmonary LCH, typically if you see, okay, one feature of pulmonary LCH is that the upper lobes are involved more than lower lobes. That is there. Another important feature would be that if you see the early part of this disease of pulmonary LCH, it typically starts to form nodules because there is accumulation of Langerhans cells there which forms nodules there. Nodules are of variable size. These nodules start to cavitate, and ultimately this cavitation that keeps on progressing to ultimately give rise to cysts which are of thick to thinner wall. But typically if you see the wall of these cysts, they are little bit thicker. Okay, thicker. And characteristically, if you want me to describe these cysts are bizarre in shape. They will be like irregular shaped cyst that is there in pulmonary LCH. Okay, that is one thing. So, okay, now if you see closely what data we have, okay, what data we have regarding pulmonary LCH. So if you look at the imaging findings of pulmonary LCH, you will find out that it's not pulmonary LCH. Pulmonary LCH will have cyst, and typically upper lower predominance is there, and you will see nodules and cyst, multiple cysts would be there, but they will be bizarre in shape, thick wall. I'll show you how do they look actually. Okay, now look at the another option. Okay, so looking at the other option. Another option is your what? Neurofibromatosis. Yeah, neurofibromatosis. First of all, the involvement of lungs in neurofibromatosis is rare. Around 10 to 20% cases of neurofibromatosis they present with pulmonary involvement. And if you really see in pulmonary involvement, what do they have? So if I describe it in one line, this is your lung. So definitely it will have nodules. Oh, sorry, it will have multiple cysts in upper part and interstitial opacities in the lower part. That is what is the presentation. But typically it is 10 to 20% cases. And if you remember, neurofibromatosis causes other things also, and definitely not these kind of skin manifestation. As a part of skin manifestation, you will have neurofibromas, cutaneous neurofibromas or plexiform neurofibromas that is there in the spine and other intercostal region. So that would be there, but not these. Okay. Okay. So this, and typically it will be less, lung involvement will be less, and there will be other important stigmata of neurofibromatosis like ribbon ribs and all those things would be there. That is there. Another important point that another option that we need to take care of is, let's say, the BHD syndrome, BHD syndrome, Burthoff-Dew syndrome. If you want me to discuss the three findings that is there in the BHD syndrome, one is the lung involvement. In lung involvement, you will have what? You will have subpleural cyst, and precisely if I call them, these are not cysts, but they are very large cysts of approximately 8 centimeter in size. So they are basically bullas that are there in your Burthoff-Dew syndrome. And the part of the lung that is involved, it's your mid to lower part of lung. Second important thing for BHD syndrome is what? It's your kidney involvement. And in kidney, you have what? You will have RCC. What type of RCC? It will be chromophobe RCC. Other lung tumor, kidney tumor that you can have is oncocytoma. Okay. And third important thing is what? On skin. On skin, you can have fibrofolliculomas. Now remember this thing, you might confuse the skin finding that we have here in this particular question to be in the bilateral, malar and nasal region, but these skin fibrofolliculomas, although they can happen anywhere, but they're typically happening in neck region or in the trunks. Okay, so the important clinical finding that that it's not a BHD syndrome, first and foremost, is the large bullas that are there in BHD syndrome, and they're subpleural in location, unlike the imaging findings that we just discussed, which is involving diffuse involvement, bilateral involvement. Okay, that is there, and cysts are of variable sizes. These are not typical bullas. Another important finding that you have to have in BHD syndrome is your kidney involvement that is there. So we have RCCs here, chromophobe RCC or oncocytoma, that is not in the question. No evidence of such tumors. Skin and typically involving neck and trunks, that is there. Okay, yeah. So that is not a BHD syndrome. But if you look closely, and important thing that you have to look is LAM, and that is an answer for this question, that it is a lymphangioliomyomatosis. Why it is lymphangioliomyomatosis? You have to look at one thing that is very important here, that LAM is a disorder that, first of all, it characteristically involves what? 30-year. It is involving, in this question we have 30-year female. I'm not saying that female, having a female in the question as a, is very important, okay, to rule out other disorders, because other disorder can present in a female patient also. But LAM has a very specific association for what? Females with childbearing age. Okay, so when this, a female of childbearing age or a young female comes into question and you have answer LAM as an option, you should think of LAM and should look other things also, which whether they're going in favor of LAM or not. Okay, so this is what is one important thing that we have. Now if you see closely the findings of the LAM, because LAM can, it is associated with one syndrome that that is your tuberous sclerosis. Although definitely it can be sporadic also, it's not that only syndromic LAM you have. Okay, you can have sporadic LAM also. And in LAM, if you see closely, what is the lung involvement that we see and why it happens? So look at the image. Okay, this is the image of this patient. Okay, and what you see clearly here, that let's look at the coronal image, and you can clearly see this, that there are multiple cysts, bilateral, diffuse. Okay, and upper lobe is a little bit more involved, but you remember this thing that in LAM, upper lobes are characteristically involved equal to lower lobes. Okay, so this particular predominance of one particular part of the lung is not there in lymphangioliomyomatosis, but definitely there is nothing 100%. Okay, you can have this predominance also. This, which is predominance, is classically, if you want to look at it, is there in pulmonary Langerhans cell histiocytosis, but upper lobes are, in LAM there is no particular sparing, or there the diffuse part, diffusely lung is involved. Okay, that goes against LAM, one thing. But if you see closely the cysts are round to oval, and important thing is that these cysts are having a thinner imperceptible wall. We discussed when we were discussing perceptible wall, that is there. And I'll show you what how does exactly the pulmonary LCH is. Pulmonary LCH will have what bizarre shaped cyst with upper lobes involved more than lower lobes. Okay, I'll show you. Another important point is that why do these have cyst? Why do these patients have cyst? So these patients will have cyst because there is something called what perivascular epithelioid cells. Okay, perivascular epithelioid cells, and these perivascular epithelioid cells is what is, you know, proliferating in this particular disorder. So there is a proliferation of perivascular epithelioid cells. These cells proliferate in this disorder, and what happens that when they proliferate, they will cause obstruction of surrounding structure. So what do we have in surrounding structure? We have bronchioles. Okay, so this is the bronchioles, that ultimately gets obstructed to give rise to cyst. Okay, and they can also cause obstruction of other disorders, other particular structures like lymphatics, like vein in the septa. So these two structures are there in your interlobular septa, and that is why patient of LAM will have what venous blockage, lymphatic blockage. So there will be edema, and this will appear in the form of interlobular septal edema or thickening that is there on the, and will give rise to reticulations as well. So there'll be reticulations there on HRCT as well as on chest X-ray. Okay, so you will have reticulations in both of these imaging findings that is there. Now if you see that there is an obstruction that is happening again and again, and this obstruction will ultimately cause what the fluid which was there in the septa, this septa fluid will start to exudate out into their what serous cavity that is surrounding this lung. And this peripheral, perivascular epithelioid cells, they are not only proliferating in the lungs, they're proliferating in every part of the body. So that is why fluid accumulation in basically this is lymph accumulation that is there, and the lymph gets accumulated in the serous cavities, like pleural effusion will be there, and similarly ascites would be there, pericardial effusion would be there, and the characteristic fluid that is there, it will be triglycerides rich. Why? Because it is lymph. It is lymph. And if you remember why we have triglyceride in lymph, because lymph, it is through lymphatics that lipid get absorbed from the gut, and that is why it is milky white in nature. So we have milky white lymph getting accumulated in the serous cavities, and that is why this patient classically of LAM has what it has: chylous effusion, ascites, and it is typically recurrent. Okay, apart from multicystic disease that we just saw. Okay, so there are few important features that we have, and another important point that you have is why it is LAM, because they have given an evidence of tuberous sclerosis that is there. Okay, multiple papules in the bilateral malar and nasal region that is there. Okay, so what they are basically, what they are the classical triad of, if you see the tuberous sclerosis, that is it is known by name of either it is epilepsy, one is epilepsy if I'm not wrong, one is your low IQ, mental retardation, third is your adenoma sebaceum. That is, these are basically what sweat glands that are proliferated. And if I'm not wrong, this is a misnomer. Okay, this is a misnomer. Okay, so adenoma sebaceum. So what we are discussing is a feature of sclerosis that is shown in this figure. These are what, okay, and typical area of malar region, okay, and bilateral nasal region is what the location is. So this one thing that it favors tuberous sclerosis, and you see multicystic involvement. The imaging findings are predominantly important, and they are pointing towards LAM in this location, because they are there are multiple cysts with involving the whole of the lung. Although there one feature that is going against LAM is your upper lobes more involved than lower lobes. Okay, that goes against it, but the nature of the cyst, okay, that is there is typical of LAM, that is not in pulmonary LCH. I'm showing you how does pulmonary LCH looks like. So okay, so this is the typical nature of the cyst that are there in this particular image. This cyst characteristically shows you the cyst of, we have pneumothorax also here, but the cyst like this. Okay, if you see, look at the cyst, these cysts are of thick wall, They are bizarre shaped cysts. They are not like those just you saw, which were thinner, having thinner wall, and there were multiple. So these are the cysts that are typically seen in your pulmonary LCH, and upper lobes are involved more than lower lobes in this. Only one feature that is going against this was equal, that is not there. These are also cysts of pulmonary LCH. Okay, and this is one image that I've taken from Radiopedia, and it's a very beautiful image that gives you three diseases that differentiates. So if you see closely, these are the multiple bizarre cysts in the lower part of this bizarre cyst are there, and if you see, multiple nodules are also there. The white areas are nodules which have central cavitation, that is black, and these are the multiple cysts of variable size, and they're typically, although they have shown it to be involving both of upper lobe and lower lobe, but that classically upper lobe more than lower lobes. This particular is your pulmonary LCH. Okay, and if you see closely that there are multiple cysts here, see, multiple cysts here also variable size, upper lobes equal to lower lobes. Okay, and these cysts are of what? They are thinner wall. Okay, thin wall. They are non-bizarre cysts. So I have to think of lamb in this particular. And this is one another important point, that if you have not watched my video on ILD, so I will recommend you to watch ILD's seventh video, where I have discussed three small ILDs. One of them ILD is your LIP, lymphocytic interstitial pneumonitis, in which you have scattered cysts, and these cysts are characteristically few in number. So if you have very small number of cysts, that if you compare these two and this lung, the number of cysts in LIP is very few. Okay, and they're scattered. So that is what is a pattern that you see in LIP, and classically that you see LIP is in your Sjogren syndrome. Okay, Sjogren syndrome. That was all about the differentiation of these three important cystic disorders that we saw. Okay, so and that's how we differentiate, and that is what the answer for this particular question is. That is your lymphangioliomyomatosis. And if you ask one more question, that if I ask you, and I also give one video, video of a CT. Okay, and scrolling, if you see that it typically depicts macroscopic fat deposition in right kidney, and left kidney is not there. So there's a left nephrectomy, and right kidney is showing what? Right kidney is showing your macroscopic fat deposition. That these are, so there's association with of lamb with angiomyolipomas. Okay, angiomyolipomas as a part of tuberous sclerosis. Now, angiomyolipoma, definitely whenever you diagnose LAM, you should think of, you should do an ultrasound or go for a abdominal CT to look for a macroscopic fat deposition, because AMLs would be there, and these AMLs could be there as a part of tuberous sclerosis, or they can be sporadically present as well. So even if you have sporadic LAM, you can also have AMLs there. Okay, so that is one thing that we discussed. Now that is all about these, I told you how to differentiate multicystic lung involvement. Okay, so these are the four important DDs. So this question is particularly important as a part of diffuse cystic lung disease, that is there, and how to go and look at the DDs, and how to progress with ultimately narrow down the DDs and reaching the single diagnosis. Thank you.